Are you a hardworking dad, juggling family responsibilities while dreaming of building wealth through real estate? Welcome to the Invested Fathers Podcast, where we explore how to balance investing and fatherhood. I'm your host, Kenny Johnson, founder of East West Capital. Over the past 5 years, I've been buying real estate to free up my time and secure my family's future. Now I'm here to help you do the same. Join me as we navigate the real estate world together, building wealth and strengthening our families. As my grandma always said, East West, home's best. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Invested Fathers Podcast. I have with me today Tim Fergestad. He is another real estate guru with me. Guru is probably not the right word, but he's
I don't like to be a guru.
Okay, fellow dad. Tim, welcome to the podcast. And how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Kenny. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about your show and the topic, and we can empathize about real estate and fatherhood.
I'll tell the audience, I asked Tim before we got started, hey, man, how you doing? Just, we're expecting a casual answer. And Tim says, man, it was one of those late nights with the teens staying up and me trying to figure out, do I go to bed because they're still up and all this other stuff. So just started right away with a dad moment story. So I'm excited to hear Tim's story, hear what he's been doing in the real estate world and how life's going as a dad. Tim, tell our audience today, if you don't mind, give us a little bit about your background in real estate and family life.
Okay, sure. So I'm from Minnesota. So is my wife. So we met in college there, and we've been married 28 years. We both went to graduate school at the medical school at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. That's where I got a PhD in neuroscience, and she got her MD degree. And then we went back to the Midwest. And the day we moved in, my wife said, we made a mistake. It was bleeding in June or something, and she turned the fireplace on, and she wanted to go back out west where it was nice and warm and sunny. So when she was done there, I was doing research in the genetics department there. She finished her anesthesiology residency, and when she finished that up, she was pregnant with our first child, and we took a position back out here. And I'm in Phoenix, Arizona now. Been here 17 years, and that's how old my oldest is.
Okay.
And it was about that time. I spent a couple of years wrapping up that work, right? You have projects and grants and papers to publish and things. And then I decided to leave science for lifestyle and money. I started doing more investment and other stuff. It was something I could be home with kids, flexible. And then over time, I realized real estate was where it was at. 2 years later, I have a 17-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. And when I had more time, when they started going to school again, I got my real estate license. I wanted to start getting my own properties. I wanted to fix and flip and hold some plexes and stuff for rentals. And the more I learned about it, I started to realize our investments weren't all that, right?
Okay.
We had years of schooling, but realized these can do better. So part of the educational process was learning what are better investments I can be making. And alternative investments in real estate was kind of top of the list. So I started doing more of that. And I got rental properties in other markets where things penciled better, things made more sense. I got single family rentals in other states. I did other stuff. I had a land wholesaling company. And as my kids got old enough, I even hired them to work for that and taught them how to do that. And they're really good at it too, actually. It's on the computer, right? How to log into the website. Because as a realtor, I get access to some other things. It's pretty nice. They could help me look up properties, look at where they work, check out the zonings, find people, go through the treasurer and the tax records and skip trace people. So when they were little, they'd have them like mail letters and stuff and that. And they like that. They were good at it. And they're really good at the computer stuff. They just don't want to do it. And
how old were they when they started skip tracing?
Oh, probably 7 or 8.
It's all anyone that doesn't, I'm familiar with that term. I would call that like kind of somewhat cyber stalking, where you're just like, you're figuring out contact information for people who, have a house and, you contact them and say, hey, would you like to sell your house? Cyber stalking might sound a little creepy, but that's a very helpful
what it is.
Activity. Because people tell me all the time, how do you find these people? It's like, it's out there. You can find anyone's number, really. So that's really cool. Okay, excited to stop you.
And so, but as a parent, you can, for your own company, you can employ your children to the tune of over $12,000 a year each. And that's true. So that's 24 grand off the top or whatever taxes and then they can put $6,000 into their Roth each year and stuff. So that's nice too. So, and I've had them switch and do other stuff lately. My daughter does. I have her doing like social media posting and other stuff and some video editing and things like that, which is more her game nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And my son, we're going over underwriting and things like that. But again, I might have to fire him and take him off the payroll because he's
walking thin ice right now.
He's not performing very well. Yeah, he's on thin ice. So we should have a review.
Yes.
An employee review.
Is his annual review, exactly. Just let him know how he's doing. I love it, man. I love all of this conversation. My kids are much younger, 3 and 7. So Tim is someone I need to be taking. I mean, I'm taking notes now, honestly. So this is great. I got a lot of questions based on your journey thus far. I think the biggest one is the switch from some science to real estate. You made it seem so kind of effortless. One day, I mean, you go to school, you're studying, you're learning, you're passing these tests, you're doing all these things. You're a qualified science guy, neuroscience, and you said the money and the time, I think, was not there. If you could expound on that.
It is. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have my wife's income. She was the breadwinner at the time. And so it was kind of a choice. We're like, well, if I wanted to stay in that sort of field, we would have probably had to move. For being the 5th largest metro area in the U.S., when we moved here, Phoenix didn't even have a medical school.
Okay.
So if I wanted to stay in my field in academia, there wasn't a lot of options here. Or if I wanted to go into industry, like say a pharmaceutical company or something, which I did electrophysiology, genetics. I did all sorts of detailed skill sets that don't translate well to business. Not.
Got it.
But we would have had to go to the coasts or something, right? Go to Jersey and go work for Merck or Pfizer or something, or something like that. And so it was a lifestyle choice. I like science. I still do. It just it was a choice to spend more time with my family and make more money. So it wasn't that part of a choice when you put it that way. But and I made it sound like it was just a quick thing, but it took me a year or two to dial it back.
Yes.
And I went out and I got to teach some classes at Cold Spring Harbor and some other stuff here and there, so I could kind of keep my foot in the field and stay on top of things. But after a few years of doing that, it was like, no, at this point, I'm out, and I just committed wholeheartedly to real estate. And I started doing some other investments as well. We looked really hard into doing assisted living houses as well. I thought that would be great. That's my wife's favorite patient population is the elderly, and she was all in. And I came at it from a real estate play, but I have friends who have for the people who may not know this listening, there's about 80% of the retirement home or assisted living industry is kind of the big box stores type of thing, where it's like a big 100 beds or more. There's a cafeteria, there's hallways, like a hotel or something. Everybody goes to their room at night. And then 20% of them are the residential model, and different states have different rules on this, but you can have 6 to 12 beds or residents living in a house, right? Mm-hmm. So they live their whole life in a house, and some of them want to stay in a house. And one of the good things about that is the caregiver to resident ratio is way better. So I think you get better care. I know anyway. So for all sorts of reasons, I know people who were on both sides. I went and got licensed and some other stuff, and then I had offers on places, some LOIs on a couple of established ones. Then I had some property I tried to buy that I wanted to get permitted for it so I could renovate it and stuff. And the city wouldn't allow it, and I had to fight the city on one and stuff. And ultimately, it got hard because it's not a normal real estate model. It's a business, and payroll and getting the workforce, the caregivers there. Special breed of person to do that job, and it was hard to find and staff that. And I liken it to owning a Dairy Queen or something as the manager, and if the people don't show up, you end up having to go in and work the window. And I was like, with the medium kids, I was like, I can't do that. I have to be a little more flexible than that. So ultimately, right before COVID, we sort of bailed on that, and I just went back to all in on multifamily, which is I started doing multifamily investing in other people's syndications and realized, whoa, this is way better than my single family stuff. And so I started I invested in a lot of other people's deals in different markets for that, but I started actively doing that myself about 5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the whole big
COVID.
Picture.
No, and goodness gracious, for each kind of sub point you did there, I'm sure there was months and maybe even years of work. I mean, you talked about the flipping land, the single family, multifamily. And even in the multifamily, I mean, you mentioned like the different plexes. So, I mean, there's small ones and there's big ones. And you've done syndications, and we've talked a little bit about that in the show of what that means. Sometimes when you say, oh, I'm into real estate, everyone just thinks, oh, you're a fix and flip guy, or, you have rentals, when there's obviously a whole world of passive LPs, limited partners. And it's cool that you experience, I think, the LP life earlier on. And it seemed like you said 5 years ago, you've kind of been more of an active operator. Is that right?
I started investing in other people's deals many years ago, and then I did as a limited partner. And then I was the general partner on projects in different markets, Dallas, Atlanta, Nashville, and here in Phoenix. Wow. And also started a couple of funds. So sort of as a fund manager, investing in deals as well. And I also, some of those skills translated too, because like right now, I am searching for opportunities for land to develop for some of our townhome build-to-rent communities we're building here in Phoenix as well. So I'm not really actively wholesaling land anymore, although my kids kind of know how to do it. And I was like, I left that business going. I'm like, if they ever want to try and find some deals on their own at some point and circle back for that, they can. But currently that one's dormant.
Okay, so I want to hit on the skill sets, because I think one of the biggest questions in life is, what am I supposed to do with my life? Or, that feeling when you get out of college and they say, well, now what? Go do your thing and make money. You started down the road of science, you changed for, the lifestyle. You seem like heavily involved in different real estate roles, kind of maybe the A to Z. Where have you kind of settled in regards to like, hey, these are my strengths and this is kind of how I'm wired and this is why I'm doing this specific type of thing in real estate today?
It's very educational to try and do everything yourself. I've learned a lot over the years. That's a great question though. I have dialed into what's the best return on my time and what do I enjoy the most, right? Trying to find that overlap. And I enjoy educating people and sharing my experiences like this. I enjoy doing projects and stuff with my hands, but it's just not scalable. I can't sit on property management calls all day long for all the different properties and be an asset manager for everything all the time. I like to tune in when I can on those calls and make sure what's going on and help out and learn and other stuff as we go. But I've had to focus more on the education and the capital raising and help bring other people along. I have sort of two models really right now. One is capital raising for deals, that the bigger deals, syndications and stuff. And then I'm geared up to do one or two joint ventures, basically smaller deals where I can just partner with one or two other people. And that way it's a little more hands-on for us, but that also means we get more of the pie and more of the tax benefits and stuff. So for real estate professional status, and you have a high income spouse or something, that's one of the benefits of that is to have the active losses to offset their active income.
That's fun. What you just described is, I would say, very similar to what I'm doing right now, but on a much smaller level. Because the single family home fix and flips, bigger pieces of the pie. I'm kind of managing everything. I have my crew. I find the private money lender. I have my attorneys. It's all there. And then what I'm really enjoying doing is funding these bigger deals for other people that are doing all the heavy lifting, but they're developing a 200 unit space in Arkansas. So they're very different, but they each have different returns and different levels of energy that get out. So that's really cool.
Well, you were sort of, we were talking earlier about what the goals are and the needs. So for example, when you're starting off, right, cash flow is important. You need the money, the income to go, and versus the equity at the end. One of my good friends likes to say, equity doesn't buy groceries. And
no, it doesn't.
It's a great line. No. So yeah, you have a lot of money on paper, but you can't pay your bills. That's how you lose property.
Exactly. Oh man, exactly.
So cash flow is important, at least having some sort of balance. And that's one of the things I focus on early on. And that's one of the things you're trying to educate people and bring them along, trying to figure out what their goals are. Are you looking to replace income? Are you in growth phase? Right? Like retirement phase, you might think of, you want some income later, right? Or you want trying to buy your time back, right? So they're starting trading your time for money all the time. And that's the game, right? And I'm sort of in that sweet spot now, trying to figure out what's the best place for the 3 year, 5 year, 10 year goal.
I'd like to just circle back a little bit into the family life, because invested fathers, the goals are, obviously we want to make money, but that's not the end goal. It's, what are you gonna do with the money? What is the why behind things? And we've touched on, having your time to do what you want to do with your kids. We'll call it the work-life balance, right? And that's a buzzword I know that gets thrown around all the time. Talk to me about how you've kind of structured, and there's different seasons, right? But maybe in the past, how have things gone with how you manage your time, and then even like to today, like how does that look like for you?
When the children are smaller, it's really easy, I thought, right? It was like from when they were in their little car carrier, you could go to a restaurant and they were confined and you could still have dinner and do stuff. And once they outgrow that, then you're limited. It depends. We were pretty good with our kids and with pretty good manners and all that stuff. People would remark, "Oh, your kids are so well behaved. Wouldn't be out at a restaurant or something."
Yeah,
nice to hear.
Yeah,
but once they reach a certain age, you're kind of you shouldn't. You should let them do what they want to do and not structure their life so much. But unfortunately, kids make bad decisions. That's the trick, right? Is like, oh, well, they're let them be them. And I'm like, yeah, but they're dumb. They'll go play in the street if you let them. They don't know better. So
right.
So trying to slowly let them have their independence and more responsibility as they go, they deserve it, and trying to dial that in. And then when they're teenagers, that work gets extra hard. One thing that I've learned, or I'm still learning with in regards to that, is now that there's that pushback. I guess it's called individuating, where it's healthy and good. They're like, no, I need to be different from you. They need to rebel. They need to have their own opinion. And if you tell them, yeah, brush your teeth so your teeth don't fall out, they'd be like, screw you. I'm not my teeth.
I'm not gonna brush my teeth now because you said that. I'm not gonna brush my teeth. Right.
Kind of, yeah. And you're like, well, I guess I'm not paying for the dentist anymore or something. I'm not sure how this is working, right? That didn't happen, but that's an example of the mindset, and it's kind of a reverse psychology thing I've had to get clever with over.
Interesting. No, that's really good. And I'm not there yet with teenagers, so I'm definitely soaking this all in. I feel like I have this secret information, with real estate with my son Moses. Hey, and I'm trying to teach him, like, if you buy a bike, use the example of like a broken bike, you fix it up and then you can resell it, and it's worth more. And I don't know what's actually sinking in.
Right. Well, that's the problem is for me anyway, I still try not to, but I still do, is I lecture. I'll be like, oh, this is a great teaching moment. Let me tell you all about this. And you just spew all this knowledge at them, and that's not how they learn. They don't take it on and they start to resent it. They're like, oh, I didn't lecture.
There you go again.
And they do learn. Years later, they bring this back, but they don't bring it back fondly. That would surprise me how much they do pick up, even when you think they're not listening. However, I've learned over time, again, as you said, there's seasons to this, but as they get older, it's particularly when they're in the teen years, I don't remember who told me this, but it's better to build a campfire, to be the solid, grounded guy who's not lecturing, but who will just listen when they come in and be the sage. And then once they know they're understood and they talk, then they may actually be ready for a tidbit or two of wisdom. But that's been hard for me to do, but it's more about, shining the light on them and really letting them know that you care and understand. And then they come and then they share. Otherwise, if all I do is lecture, they're not going to come to me anymore. So I had to learn how to dial that back.
Man, I feel like that was just nuggets of wisdom, of gold wisdom right there. Listening to them, building the campfire. I have not heard that yet. And I love that. And we just had a bonfire, or one of those little fire pit things. It's not even a bonfire. Solo stove. And we did s'mores. I love it. Listening to my son, he wants to talk about sharks and animals of all kinds. And it's funny, you just sit there and you nod and listen and you try to understand it. And then at the end, he goes, oh, okay, love you, Dad. Just thanks for listening to my story. And, it just builds that relationship. And that's true of we're talking kids, but adults too, you just sit and listen to them and you can gain trust.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Covey. He said, seek first to understand. That works for kids too, everybody, right? Adults and kids. I'm assuming you're familiar with Ryan Holiday and his Daily Dad?
I need to find him. Okay. I'm going down that road for sure with the Invested Fathers.
So Ryan Holiday is an American author. He's written some really good books, but he's kind of a champion of the Stoic philosophies, and which I think is very popular nowadays because, I think like a lot of things, cultures, the pendulum swings back and forth. And right now, a lot of people are appreciating the sensible nature of it. People don't know what I'm talking about. So when I grew up, philosophy was like this subject matter where college professors would debate whether or not we exist or something. It wasn't very useful. It's called high philosophy. I never really got into philosophy, but I never had into sociology or anything. I was a nerd. I'm a scientist. I like things. And it wasn't until I got older and had kids and I started to realize how important understanding other people are, communication is, everything, but also how to deal with things as they show up and how to control yourself, right? You can't control what's going to happen, but you can control how you respond and that sort of stuff. And that's more or less what the basic philosophies originally were, the core, how to deal with life. He's written some pretty good books, very popular bestseller. Stillness is the key. With the obstacle is the way. Was a big one.
Yes,
anyway,
I have heard
stuff, that. But okay, that's Ryan Holiday. He has some good stuff, and he has a daily Stoic email you can sign up for, and he just sends you free emails, and he talks about all sorts of stuff. It's great. But he also has a dad one for parents, and so it reminds you. And the one this morning, actually, if you don't mind, I'll share it real
please,
quick.
I love it.
It was about, I think Catherine was, or Wilbur and Orville's sister was recalling how her mom wouldn't really promote or flatter what the boys were working on, right? The Wright brothers. Even if it was some nasty little thing of sticks and whatever, she'd just move it off to the side and she wouldn't destroy it or ever say, this is dumb, you're making a mess,
Right.
But she also wouldn't do the opposite. She wouldn't be like, oh, that's so awesome.
That's
Look,
great.
you made it pile of crap. The fact that she didn't belittle it is why she felt that they were successful, and she acted like their stuff mattered, right? She gave respect to what they were working on, even when they were little. And then they started to fix bicycles and do all this other stuff. It was nothing but respect and attention to what the kids were doing. So they felt like it was justified and warranted. And so she was crediting their mother to
I love that.
light in America.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of the train tracks my daughter made this morning, and the puzzle, and the kids are always making stuff, right? I mean, you give them Kinects and blocks and Legos and whatnot, but it's interesting. Every kid is different, of course, right? But you have the kids who are just negative on themselves. Oh, this isn't very good, and they have that low self-esteem. And then you have some that are like, look at me, I made this. Very proud of their work. I just like the point of the story where the mom wasn't overboard on like, oh, this is amazing. I mean, maybe that would have liked that,
Right.
But maybe a little bit of that reservedness kind of made them keep going and like, oh,
Yes,
keeps good, but maybe we should make it better.
Keeps them hungry for the next one, right? Well, that's to your point. I think you alluded to earlier. Maybe it's cultural, or nowadays kids, particular nowadays, I think they're not as patient. Obviously, they're young, but that instant gratification is dialed up right now. If they are not good at something right away, they don't want to do it. Right. And that's a big problem. That's really the biggest lesson as a parent I think I've learned, and what kids I think really need is they need safe opportunities where they're not permanently damaged, where they can fail, but fail forward, right? And they have challenges that they, bite-sized challenges that they can grow with, and that makes them more courageous, makes them more confident, right? And that's how we all move forward. When kids are little and they stumble, we don't berate them or give them a bad grade. We're like, dude, stand up, you can walk, try it again, right?
Yeah.
That's just how we learn. That's how we go. And school and everything else starts to reprimand you for everything, when that's not really how life works. So that sort of environment is paramount for kids growing.
I mean, the classic example of the kid falls down on his bike, and he gets back up. I mean, this morning my son we were doing like a math thing, and I was like purposely trying to ask him hard things. Like, he doesn't know multiplication. I was asking multiplication questions to kind of see how he would respond. But you're absolutely right. As parents, there's kind of that level of like, where are they at? Okay, let's keep pushing them. And just because they don't get it right away, that's okay. Like, let's keep going on this. And when they start getting those reps in and they start looking back and like, look where I was, and this is where I am now, they get really excited.
Yep. Are you familiar with Grit?
Yes.
By Angela Duckworth?
Yes, I've read that.
Okay. Same sort of idea, right? It's time. It's accomplishments over time. They can't be fast. You can't like try a video game, win it on your first time through, and come out with a sense of,
Right.
of
You're awesome.
perseverance or right. And that's actually why I think sports are really good.
Mhm.
And if kids don't do sports nowadays, they do video games, which still have their own lessons, right? I mean, because you go through and then you level up and you try, and the game gets harder on purpose. You're trying to get further and stuff. I'm not quite the fan because it's not quite as hard. It's not physically challenged. It's not emotionally as draining. But going to the gym or something with my son has been great because you don't see gaming the first several times you go to the gym.
Oh yeah,
and people want to quit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And coaching baseball, we had kids, I coached the league and other stuff. And there's kids who are like, this is hard. I'm no good at it. I want to quit. And I'm like, what? Nobody's good at it when you
Right.
That's the point. You can get good though. That's some good news. You can practice and that's how you get better. But they just, a lot of the kids are like, no, too hard. I don't want to try. Oh, it's so sad. Trying to make it fun and trying to encourage that struggle is the trick for me anyway.
We've covered a range of topics, Tim. I think you said you've been married for 20 years. Is that correct?
28.
I'm sorry. The 28 years, way different.
Yeah. So we're about almost done.
There are families that, grit their teeth during the hard kid years. They stay together during this, difficult time, and then they stop after end. And I know people that are in that.
Yeah.
How has being a husband affected the dynamics of everything we talked about, and maybe some lessons learned and what's worked?
One lesson was that when the kids are born, I am at the bottom of the priority list now. And then you have another kid and then work and kids and life. And then like any relationship, it requires work and maintenance. We have a negative bias, right? As humans, if 19 things go right during the day and one thing does not, we're still upset about the one thing that didn't. And in our busy, hectic lives, I've had to make an effort to bring gratitude of some sort of practice back into our routine, right? If it's just family sitting down for dinner and saying, oh, how was your day? Oh, what are we grateful for? Or something,
Yes.
Making time for each other, not quality time, just quantity time, just actually have a minute to sit together without everything is important. And so, whether it's date night or something, we try to make happen, but it's still hard most days. For years, we got away with not maintaining the relationship because things were good and we were busy and we had other stuff. I mean, maybe some people don't, but we kind of grew apart for a little bit. We had to make an effort to grow together again. And
Yes,
there was a great commercial I saw like a year or so ago. The parents were dropping their kid off at college and then they're driving home in silence in the car. And he looks over at her and he's like, well, how you doing? And I was like, yeah, I totally get it. You have to start dating again, start figuring out who you are now again. So wanted to sort of stay on top of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're always still learning, right? We have to relearn the same things over and over. I know that's an important ingredient in really successful family. To hear your take on, you still have to put time in it. And sometimes the time is quantity time. It's not quality time. We kind of make efforts with date night. Understood. Right. We have Friday nights are like takeout night, and our kids are asleep by 7:30, 8. So we get Mexican or pizza or whatever, and that's our like we made it, and a special time.
Right. Something I wanted to share too is travel was something that it's not like good marriage bonding time per se, but it's an adventure, something new we can share together. So that's always a good thing. But also with the kids, it checks a lot of boxes in that sense because particularly as the kids get older. Because I've always traveled and done different stuff, mostly local, smaller stuff when the kids were younger. But getting them out of the element and appreciating nature and the world and other cultures and bigger picture stuff is huge. And it also gets them out of their routine of being, on their phone or whatever. And we're guilty of it too, right? I mean, so we get in a different mindset when you get in a new environment, and that's huge. And that's something that we still enjoy. And our kids travel really. My boy just got back from Rome. He had a week in Rome. An opportunity landed in his lap. So he got to go back to Italy. It was remarked upon by the people who took him how amazingly well he traveled and how mature he is and other stuff. And respectful and other. Yeah, I think I've done an okay job. We'll see. Maybe they'll be in therapy someday.
I've loved your stories today, Tim. I can tell you're very intentional about working with your kids. I know you kind of joke about the lectures, but you're giving them, you're trying, you're caring, and that says a lot. We are not perfect people. We are not perfect parents. And as we mess up and the kids mess up, that's part of life. But we keep going and the care factor is a very important ingredient despite our flaws. Tim, I want to leave with letting our audience know what are ways they can track your journey.
Sure. Thank you. TimFergestad.com should take you to my Linktree page or Facebook or LinkedIn. Oak Street Assets is our multifamily syndication website. There's lots of content there.
Thank you very much for your time today. I hope everyone enjoyed that conversation with Tim Fergestad, Phoenix, doing all sorts of fun stuff over there.
All right. Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Invested Fathers podcast. If you liked this episode, we would love for you to click subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate all of your hard work as a father and look forward to our next episode together.